Welcome back. Today I've got a photo that I've been meaning to restore for quite a while. This is actually my grandfather, and it's been in the family for years. As you can tell, it's been passed around and it's incredibly scratched and ripped, and it's going to be a bit of a challenge to keep as much of that detail as you can, particularly a big buckle like this where you get a bright side and a dark side where the image is bent. And you can see it's sort of lit from the top and from the bottom, so we'll have to correct that. So firstly, I'll knock out the colour with a hue saturation. Then, using the crop tool, I want to keep that little number up the top of the image, but I'll crop just a little bit like that. And now, going over to the remove tool, I'm going to start painting out as many of the scratches and the losses as I can. This is sped up 200%. So I'm kind of cleaning up on either side of that large buckle in the center because I'm going to deal with that later, and I just want the image around it to be as clean as I can before I attempt to remove it. Now, as you can see, when I remove this, it removes the buckle, but it still retains the light and the dark side of that crease. And I'll do a little color correct later on to try and remove that. Now, I don't know what this is around his ear, but it makes it very hard to restore and know where his face is and where the background is. But you can kind of see on the other side of his face, there's a very clear delineation of his chin or his jawline. So later on, I'm going to copy and paste and mirror that, not to stamp it down, but to use it as a guide for the shape of his chin. The remove tool's very, very good at doing what you can see here, which is to extend straight lines. If you just stretch out a brushstroke in the direction you're headed in, or you want, it'll actually create quite a good straight line. So now I'll make a levels adjustment layer and I'll grade it quite dark, and then you can see it's got a white mask, so the whole image is graded down. I'm going to flip that to black so that it hides the effect of that layer, and then with a white paintbrush paint into the mask just where I want to darken down the image. Very low opacity on the brush, about 20%. And now I can adjust the levels and try and find a grey tone that's similar to the background. Now when I'm happy with that, I can merge those two layers, and then I can use the remove tool here and there, and it's going to just blend away some of the artifacts. Okay, that's looking pretty good, but you can still see a faint horizontal or slight, almost horizontal line running across where the crease used to be. So I'll create another levels layer. Now using a gradient in the mask, I can draw out a similar kind of band, reverse it, and now go back to the levels, adjust, and then grade just a little bit down so that you can't see that level. Now, what I thought was good was 0, so maybe it wasn't there after all, but you know, a little bit of a move around, a little bit of an adjust with the grad, and it kind of helps, I think. Now I took this image into Topaz Sharpen and gave it a very, very fine sharpen, or a subtle sharpen. Not huge, I'm not a fan of over sharpening images, but just to put a tiny bit of crispness back into the weave of his clothing and a slight amount of detail around his eyes. Now here you can see I'm doing what I said I was going to do earlier, which is copying and pasting the side of his face across to the other side by copying and pasting a selection and then mirroring that selection, transforming it. Turn down the opacity. I'm just going to place it in a way where I feel like it describes the side of his face. And using the blending options in the layer, I'm just going to knock that down by knocking out, you can sort of see, making the top white parts of it more transparent. So just keeping a little bit of the dark wall and knocking out most of what was around his ear. It's a little bright, but with a bit of clone brushing, I can restore, coming in on the darker side for the background and the lighter side for his jawline and his ear. You can kind of see where his jaw should have been. Good, much improved. Now I do think I'll try to colorize this image as well. So going over to the neural filters, I'm going to select colorize, and it does a pretty good job. I like some of the variation in tone in the background, but always make sure that it's on a new layer and that it's output as a new color layer, so it puts out just the color information, and you can see that layer is set to color. Now making sure my eyedropper is set to current layer only, it'll select, when I paint, it'll select just colors from that color layer, so I'm not picking up any of the tone from the image underneath. Now you'll see I'm going to be pretty rough here with the paint. I don't want it all to be one color. I don't want the background to be a flat color. I like a little bit of bleed of color from one object into the other. I think it makes the image look a little bit more natural than when everything's really hardly delineated and in really simple block colors. I'm going to sample a slightly less blue color for his outfit, I think, but you can sort of see a little bit of blue sneaking through here and there, so it's not flat grey. I think that really adds a little bit of pop to these images. I always save the colour image as well as the black and white image because I've never make up my mind whether I prefer coloured or black and white. I think the black and white in this case is better, but always nice to play. And here's the result. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.